It's 1997. A very well-planned group of 26 businessmen assemble for meeting in Kenya and decide to create an investment company so large that it would cause ripples in the region. And ripples it surely did cause. Their aim was to start with Kenya, expand to the East African region, and eventually grip the rest of the continent of Africa. The first thing they did was establish great funding and also have very strong ties with government officials and personnel. These two things would emerge as their stronghold powerhouse and stepping stone that laid the foundation of their goals. TransCentury is so big that by 2007, being one of the major private equities in the country was an important deal-making machine, having bought a controlling stake in East African Cables from Naushad Merali of Samia Group, Tanzania's ABB Tanelec Limited, and South Africa's Qbag and Braids. The big bucks for TransCentury started flowing in from 2002, following the election of the now late President Mwai Kibaki. The economic environment was favorable enough to build new ventures and favor new frontiers, especially in the investment business, and TransCentury took note of this and took advantage. It scaled its operations and invested in the energy sector to reap dividends from the growing electricity demands in the country and the entry of the independent power producers in generation of growing energy consumers. TransCentury would challenge direct and independent power producers when it created Simba Energy. It was by this time considered an investment giant in the region. Eddie Njoroge, a former managing director of the KenGen, was part of the team, and so was Michael Waweru, who was Commissioner General of Kenya Revenue Authority, known as KRA. Former Nairobi Securities Exchange Chairman James Gachui and businessman and renowned billionaire Jim Nambaru, among Zeph Mbugua and Peter Kanyago, and also Joe Kamau, were part of the team. The founders, largely from Mount Kenya region, were thought to have a very strong and easy ties to the then President Mwai Kibaki. In a bold move, TransCentury wanted to buy a 4% stake in Kenya Power from the National Security Fund, but decision was withheld in 2006 for fears it would cause a political stir and allegations that TransCentury was not above board. TransCentury has headquarters in Kenya and has subsidiaries in other countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mauritius, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and South Africa. As of December 2014, TransCentury's assets were worth about 19.5 billion Kenyan money, with shareholders' equity being valued at 11.4 billion Kenyan money. It's worth noting that besides East African Cables, TransCentury would go on to acquire other stakes in companies such as Avery in 2005, at 4% of Rift Valley Railways in 2006, and Civicom in 2011. It also exited some investments such as Tanzania's Chaibora, Castle Brewery Limited, and also Rift Valley Railways in April of 2014 by selling its 4% stake to Citadel of Egypt. In June of 2014, TransCentury announced plans to invest in a 35 megawatts geothermal power plant consortium in Menengai, Kenya. But despite this impressive portfolio, TransCentury still fell into trouble and it is sunk terribly in debt. In 2016, TransCentury owed $80 million in debt bonds, which it got additional time to clear by Farallon Capital and Investec Asset Management of South Africa. It fell into negative capital, failed to return any profits since 2013, and unfortunately, it was also the last term of the then former President Mwai Kibaki, who was their heir in the government. After its inability to pay corporate bonds, it triggered restructuring by Kuramo Capital. The firm got in a 25% stake for $2 billion as a turnaround investment. It would still go on to make yet another loss of 4 billion shillings. To make the situation even worse, in 2021, TransCentury was in a bad financial shape that it couldn't even afford to pay for auditing of its financial books. TransCentury has tried to have a cash call and left the firm in limbo. Equity Bank, which had given TransCentury a loan of about $20 million, which it had trouble paying, then moved to action. The debtor owed to the Kenyan bank got a right-of request by the TransCentury company. This then prompted Equity Bank to go after it. Equity Bank then placed East African Cables under receivership and the firm under administration to give it time to clear the loan. However, in a turn of events, TransCentury went to court. The High Court of Kenya then gave an injunction suspending the administration process after the firm said the bank had illegally appointed a receiver while the two entities were engaging in active talks. This is just one of the many success stories that have turned sour, painful, and killed one of Kenya's most thriving businesses. TransCentury's story is a story that should concern every caring Kenyan. The government and private sector are also two other bodies that should be on the lookout. Equity Bank putting the company under receivership just means one thing, and one thing alone. If TransCentury for any reason loses the court battle which he has with Equity Bank, then it's doomed. In Kenya, usually when a company is placed under receivership, it basically means that chances of that company going back to business are essentially next to zero. No company having been placed under receivership in Kenya by a bank, especially Equity Bank, has ever seen the light of the day. The receivers are usually not, in most cases, interested in reviving the business, and so this then is the case. This is the same case for TransCentury. We can start bidding it goodbye. The grave has been dug for TransCentury. We are awaiting the death of one of Kenya's most prime investment company to follow suit of many others like it before. For example, Nakumat and Tuskies. I've been your host, Ian Best Smith. Please subscribe for more. I hope to see you in the next video.